Hello and welcome to the channel if you're new, and welcome back if you're not. In today's video, we're going to configure an inbound integration into ServiceNow using an import set API. I might pick the wrong shirt. Am I blending into the background? I am, aren't I? Hello, and in today's video, we're going to do an inbound integration into my instance of ServiceNow. And the scenario we're going to use is that we've got an external ticketing system, and that's going to send us updates into my instance of ServiceNow and update some incidents. It's a boring scenario, but it's a really quick and easy one, right? And hopefully you get the idea. So in order to make that happen, we're going to use the import set API. And why are we going to do that? Well, we're going to use an import set because it gives us the opportunity to do some data transformation from the import set to our target table, in this case, the incident. So that means we're going to need an import set. We're going to need to create one of those. We're going to need a transform map. We're going to need to create one of those as well. But we're also going to need a web service on the top of that. Okay, so something for that external system to interact with. So the first thing we're going to need to do is go and create our web service, right? And this is really cool.
Is it?
So if you go onto the left hand side, type in inbound, we're going to see system web services. We go to create new, we then give it a label. So this is the name of our web service. I'm never creative with that name, so I'm just going to go with inbound incident demo, right? But the point to note here is that when we do that, it starts automatically adding in the name. This name, u underscore inbound underscore incident underscore demo, bit of a mouthful.
That's a mouthful.
Becomes our import set table. So what you'll see is we're not going to go create a web service and then go and click create import set. By doing this right now, it's going to create our import set first, okay, for us. Pretty sneaky, eh? We've done that. Now we need to look at the target table. So this is going to have this is kind of related to the transform map. So left hand side is about the import set, right hand side is kind of saying, well, where do you want to put this, right? So we'll create the web service. It's going to create the import set for you. Now what's the target table? So we can select our target table here, and we can also choose to copy the fields from the target table. So for example, if we chose to pick incident, it would copy all the fields into the web service fields here in the middle of the screen. Do we want to do that in this case? Probably not. And we probably won't do that because there's a lot of fields on incident and we don't really want to use all of them in terms of a web service. So we're not going to do that in this case. We're just going to create some manually in a second. What we'll do is select incident as our table. So this is the target table that we want to hit. And yes, we do want to create a transform map in this case. Again, so just by doing this create web service, it's going to create all the artifacts we need to make this happen. Very quick and simple. Click create, and here we go. It launches us straight onto the transform map. So it's kind of almost, well, it's not really like a wizard, but it's taken us to that relevant record. So the first thing I like to do here is I always like to give, I always like to have some consistency, right? So I'm going to call the table transform map TRM. I always prefix it with TRM. It's just, if I'm doing a transform map, I know I'm being consistent with my naming convention. Again, you don't have to use that, but it's what I like to do. And we're going to disable running business rules. So when we hit that target table, we don't want to run all the business rules that are going to run on update on the incident. Okay, so the next thing we're going to want to do is map our fields. We've got our transform map, we need to map them. However, at this stage, we can't map them because what are we going to map? We know the target fields because they're incidents, right? So we know all the fields on incident, but we've not told it what's in our web service in order to map to those incident fields. So let's just go ahead and do that. So we go back to our web service we created. It's created a module for itself on the left-hand side. And here we're now in that web service that we created before that we can come and add our web service fields to. So just so we can look at it, here's the transform map that we've just created and come off. But let's go ahead and add some web service fields. So these are the fields that are going to be exposed on the web service that we can send data into. So we're going to create one for external ID, which is going to be almost like our number, our ticket number on the external system that's sending in. We're going to add in the ServiceNow SysID. So this is going to be the SysID of our incident record, so we know what to update. Funnily enough, that's going to be how we coalesce. description. So we want our external system to send in a description for us. And we're also going to add some notes that we're perhaps going to map to the comments or the work notes field on the incident. So what I'll just do here is just increase the length of those fields just so we can add a bit more than 40 characters. So now when we click update on this, it's going to take us back to our transform map so we can continue where we left off on that. So now we can start mapping the fields. Okay, so we're going to use mapping assist. So we're going to simply select the fields that we just created on the web service, and then we're also going to select those that correspond to it on the incident table as well. Okay, so we pick external ID, some notes, ServiceNow SysID, and what was the other field? Desk, yeah, for description. Okay, so we need to select all of those, move them across, and we can do the mapping. Okay, so then now that's the mapping done. What you'll notice is we didn't add the ServiceNow SysID in there. So we need to just go and add that manually, just because we're going to select it as a SysID field, which we didn't have available on the mapping assist itself. So we select source field. We're just going to go and find SysID, and we're going to coalesce on that. So coalesce essentially means when we send in that SysID, that's the field that we're looking for. So we're looking for SysID, and then we're going to update all the other target fields with the source field data based on that SysID.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So now what we're going to do is going to add the choice action to reject. So if we don't find that SysID, we're going to reject the whole row. So now what we can do is go back to our web service, and we can go and test this using ServiceNow's internal REST API Explorer. So if we go on our web service and we scroll down, we'll be able to see a related link, UI action, Explore REST API. This is brilliant. So we don't have to go digging around in the tool. It's all there for us. And that's one of the key points I want to make with this whole setup today. We've created, we've gone to a module, and we've gone to create a web service, right? It's created the import set for us. It started the creation of the transform map for us. All we're doing is adding the bits around it. We're not having to dive around the tool trying to figure out where we're supposed to go. So this is a really powerful point I want to make. So if we go to Explore REST API Explorer, you've got access to, and if you've never been in here before, go in and check it out. But you've got access to all the APIs in ServiceNow that you can play with and you can test. And it's quite difficult. Well, it's not really difficult to get your head around, but it's essentially a tool where you can test out REST calls in ServiceNow, but also you can start providing information to third parties to say, hey, this is how you interact with this system. This is the endpoint. This is the headers you need to pass. Really powerful tool. So let's have a look. So if we go for the import set API, but you've got access to lots, this is what we're going to do post. It gives us the endpoint. We know it's that the method's post. It even gives us a kind of a variable that we'd substitute in. So staging table name is whatever you select here, in which case, for us, it's the inbound incident demo. And we can change and add things like the request format and response format. In this case, it's application JSON. Again, down here, it's really simple to use. We can start adding in a request body. We can build that ourselves using the field and value selection. It's going to create a very flat request body in terms of key value pair. So what we'll do is just go ahead and start adding in those web service fields that we've created into the to the request body payload. So if we just do that, and we can then start to give those some test values. Okay, so we can put in things like change short description, the number that we need to add in external ID. Now the ServiceNow SysID, we'll have to go into an incident in our own instance to go and find a SysID that we want to update for the purpose of this test. So let's go and do that. Okay, so we'll use this one here. Grab the SysID and we'll go back over, copy and paste that in. And there you go. We've constructed a very flat key value pair payload. Now what we could do if we didn't want to use the builder, we could just put that in our raw. Okay, we could create it in Notepad or something and then put that in the raw tab. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to hit send. And then we'll get our 201, which means it's created, and we get our response body back as well with all the parameters. And this is all standard out the box. So this allows us then to say, hey, to our third party, this is what you'll be expecting in the payload coming back. So if we go back to our incident, we can see the correlation display has been added, the short description, and we've also got the work notes that we passed in as well. If we scroll down, here we go, some notes have been added. Okay, so there we have it. So what have we done? We've created a inbound integration into my instance of ServiceNow. It could be yours if you follow along. And we've created an import set, a import set API web service on top of that. So that allows us to interact with our import set. We've created a transform map, which gives us that opportunity to transform the data before we load it to the incident table. And we've done all that just by really going to one module to begin with. And everything else was kind of slots into place and gave us a nice journey to create this functionality. So I hope you found this useful. So if you're not yet subscribed, please consider doing so. It does make a big difference. If you haven't yet smashed the bell icon, please do it, and you'll get notified when I upload new videos just like this one. Until next time, take care.